situation 5 times worse if it wasn't for them. There are only a few of those people. And one of them is James O'Keefe. And he is an example, even though he doesn't like me saying this, to everybody else on how you can go out and take on these criminals. And the stalwart, dogged determination is the stuff of Americana and the stuff of legend. And I'm only saying that because he gets demonized, he gets dogged, he gets attacked, he gets lied about, he gets arrested, fighting true organized crime, real organized crime. And he deserves our prayers, and Project Veritas deserves your financial support. You should get his book that chronicles all this. I know he didn't want to come on and talk about himself, but there's 3 big things to cover today. A, the mainstream corporate media is totally blacking out the reports he's putting out that are the biggest in their storied history. Bringing down Acorn, you name it, on and on and on. This is the biggest stuff in my view. I mean, he has top Democratic officials, top operatives saying, we're stealing elections, we're engaged in election fraud, we're bussing people around, we're going to do it, we're above the law. He's got the newest info, sending people in to bully women so they could stage events where Trump security then has to restrain women. I mean, you talk about setups. This is such dirty tricks, red-handed, and there was Trump bringing it up last night, pointing right at Hillary. So the censorship, the big bombshells he's breaking, new bombshells to come, 18 days out. James O'Keefe is our guest at the bottom of the hour. I want to give you his website, projectveritas.com. But we never single people out and say, these folks deserve support. Let me tell you, what they're doing deserves support. I want to thank our listeners for supporting us. But bottom line, because of your support, we're able to have a fighting chance against these criminals. And it's WikiLeaks, it's James O'Keefe, it's Drudge, it's InfoWars, it's Breitbart, and a few other groups. And it's you, the people, that are with us. You're not behind us. You're at the heart of what we do. And I want listeners to understand that. I salute you as well. Because it's important to understand this is a war. And the mainstream media is not going to pat you on the back, folks, for all you've done. Well, I am. So, James O'Keefe, I know you're fighting hard right now and working with your great team across the country. But, wow, what an amazing time to be alive. You've got the floor. I mean, where do you want to start first? The blackout, the latest info, your newest revelation.
I just want to say, Alex, that last night when we were brought up by Donald Trump at the debates, it was one small step for my team and one giant leap for citizen journalism. I mean, what you saw in the last 48 hours, Twitter, by the way, removed me, then reinstated me. We were trending on Twitter. We're the #1 trending video on YouTube worldwide. We're the #1 trending thing on Facebook over the last 24 hours. What you are seeing is something I never thought I would say. You are seeing social media and the grassroots in this country more powerful than the mainstream media. We are the social media barbarians at the gates, and we have inundated their inboxes. The New York Times is now forced to cover it. The Washington Post was forced to cover it. We are the barbarians at the gates, and we have flooded the mainstream media with interest and attention, and we have become more powerful than the mainstream media. It's truly historical. I've talked about this before, but I've never actually seen it. Last night, Alex, when I was on I was at the debate, and I walked into the press pool, and there were 5,000 reporters, almost like a red carpet at the Oscars, and they all knew who I was, and they all knew about the story, and not one of them wanted to talk to me or talk about it.
Because they weren't reporters, they were repeaters. You were the only man, the only journalist really in the arena.
They did not want to talk about it, and I also looked at them, and I didn't know what to say. I said, guys, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. I mean, I said, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. And it was truly historical situation for Veritas, and I'm just so proud of my team. It took us a year, transcripts and filming and a year of investigative work. But to see these guys resign, the heart and soul of the Democratic Party, that guy, Bob Creamer, was not some low-level guy. He met with the president 47 times. He went to the White House 340 times. He has now resigned. Hillary Clinton is being asked about it on an airplane.
Now, James, we are on a lot of 50,000 waters, a lot of news stations right now. We've gotten like 20 news stations the last month. So a lot of new listeners know who you are. They've heard about you, but they've heard the media demonize you or twist things. So spend a few minutes just to address new listeners on the blackout that's happening, the huge bombshells you've been breaking, and how they are key in the social media people war against the dinosaur media to go to your site, to go to projectveritas.com, to go to infowars.com, to go to Drudge, get our stories, get our videos, and hammer them out to everybody. That's how we're cutting through the Berlin Wall of disinfo.
Yes, you guys, I couldn't have done it without you. You don't realize how important you are. I mean, I have no words to tell you how important you are. You were tweeting at every single journalist. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I had journalists come up to me and say, so you're the guy who inundated my inbox. I didn't even know who they were. You guys were sent 10,000 retweets on these tweets. I mean, you flooded their inboxes. So over the last 48 hours, the first video was about the conspiracy, the dark money conspiracy to induce violence at Trump rallies, where they were on tape describing how they took credit for all the violence and how that came through the chain of command from the White House. This is all on video. And nobody wanted to cover it. Alex, it got 6 million views on YouTube, that video. And the second video was about how they were busting up people across state lines, how they wanted to commit illegal voter fraud with non-citizens. A guy named Cesar Vargas caught on videotape describing how they bust people. The quotes, you can't write them. They look like they're from The Usual Suspects. The guy in the video says, we don't care about the law. We want to win this mother effer. Quote, we've been busting people across state lines for 50 years. You can't make this stuff up. And social media has forced the mainstream media to cover this. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. It's the #1 hottest thing. It's become a global video phenomenon. And I just can't, I could not do it. We could not have done this a couple years ago. And Twitter tried to ban me. Jack Dorsey tried to ban me. And another thing, Alex, this is unbelievable. We had television exclusives lined up with the biggest media television stations, and they all spiked the story. My sources are telling me because they faced retaliation and retribution from a future Clinton administration. And they now are forced to cover it because its groundswell has risen and up. So I have nothing, I don't know what else to say except that this is historical, and I could not have done it without all of you.
Well, looking at you via video Skype for radio listeners, you've always seemed a little concerned, focused. Now you almost look satisfied. And I know that feeling of working so long on something like a film or an undercover investigation, but nothing like your long-term operations that are so professional. And then, seeing it bear fruit and seeing them try to suppress it, but still it doesn't work and only blows up in their face bigger. I mean, am I seeing satisfaction in your face?
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I stayed up for 48 hours straight, and I just took a nap, so the adrenaline has left my body. But it is something that I've never seen before, Alex. The media is losing control over the people. When the media loses control over the people, they panic, they get irrational, they viciously attack, they assault my reputation, they have to do damage control. And what you saw was citizen journalism groundswell up to the top and force people to talk about it in the presidential debate, which in turn forced the media corporations, which don't want to talk about it because they face retribution from the Justice Department. And I had, by the way, Alex, I'm not going to say who they were because I promised them I wouldn't, but I had people who you perceive to be friendly to us in the big leagues, the big TV stations, come up to me and say, James, I went to war for you. I went to war for you with my corporation. And I wanted to get you on TV. They won't let me put you on TV. That is how bad it is. That is what
exactly. Let's remember that. As bad as dinosaur media is, there's actually a lot of good people in there.
There are some good people. There are some 1 or 2 decent people. But they pulled me aside. They huddled me on the red carpet last night, and they said, James, I went to war for you. They will not let me put you on television. Because, Alex, the way it works is these are publicly traded media companies. These are publicly traded corporations. And if they air this stuff, that people in the White House...
It's over. Hillary will have to step down.
If they air this stuff, the election's over.
What is it like for you to see Hillary up there going, there's no such thing as election fraud, while she says the Russians are taking it over, so we have to federalize it? That's an oxymoron, doublethink. But then there's no such thing as election fraud. Obama on the Rose Garden lawn, while your video's going viral, saying no one's ever heard of it, while you have the head Democratic Party operatives bragging that they're going to steal the effing thing like they always do, and nobody's going to stop them.
This guy, Bob Creamer, he's no joke. He's a community organizer. He's met with the President of the United States 47 times. He's been to the White House 340 times. He's the heart of the institutional left. We just ripped out the heart of the institutional left. As Matt Boyle said, he said, James, you ripped out the heart of the institutional left. The beating heart is now put on the table. And these guys now, I mean, the Washington Post was in a Twitter war with me yesterday. They go, James, why don't you get us video of President Obama meeting with him? I said, that's your job. Why are you telling me to do your job? I mean, if I was doing what Matt Drudge says, if you guys were doing your job, there wouldn't be a need for people like me, okay?
And they force us as citizens because they want our guns, they want to raise taxes on us. I would never have been a media person. But, I mean, I did this because they were taking farmers' and ranchers' land, the environmentalists were, to build high-rise buildings on and not even paying them. They were trying to take our guns. And when I would go and speak out against it, they would say, no one wants your guns, and play that game. And I said, that's it. I'm going to fight you. That's why they can't defeat us, because we're doing this for passion, not to be little narcissists like they are. And let's expand on that, because you've got new breaking news I want to play some clips of here and break down the latest dirty tricks that you've caught them in. But just the magnitude of where this is going. They are panicking. They are freaking out. A lot of them are getting more aggressive, hoping to prop up the system, which seems to only be accelerating its collapse. I mean, they were already running James O'Keefe of Project Veritas, if you just tuned in, folks, one of the top investigative journalists in the world, way beyond Cy Hirsch now, in my view. Sitting here watching them, they're already on fumes. I think we're about to hit the moment where the engine seizes up. What do they do when that happens?
Well, I think that they realize that their days are limited. I just want to go back to what I was saying with the Washington Post reporter. I mean, they were all the Daily Show, the Washington Post. I had David Frum. They were tweeting me. So why don't you release your raw source materials? Identify your undercover people. I said, you don't release your raw materials. And I was fighting them. And
you don't release your sources? Nobody does.
Nobody releases their sources. If the Daily Show released their raw video, they'd make all the people look like good people. They make them look terrible. The journalists, this is how they've created a narrative. They piece words together. They paint a picture that's different than reality. And the great thing about undercover video on YouTube.
By the way, you put them out in big 16, 20-minute clips. I mean, this is not really edited. You're just taking it to the key parts.
And the people have resigned, and they've admitted they've said what they've said. But Alex, it's something greater and bigger than that. We're exposing. I mean, Bob Woodward was on O'Reilly last night talking about this thing. We're exposing. It's not just about Bob Quinn.
You're forcing the media to do their job.
Yes, because it's not just about the video. The video is something bigger than the video. It's about the media. If the media was doing their job, we would be living in a freer world. We'd be living in a more transparent world. And it is exposing the media, and that's why they don't want to talk.
Exactly. Well, I mean, take Fovel. He's the national coordinator for for this organization, People for the American Way, famous socialist group. They're sitting there organizing nationwide. He's so angry. He's so energized, saying they'll never stop us. We played the clip like 10 times this week. They'll never stop us. We're in control. There's no one. We can do whatever we want. And now we're taking over the legislatures. It was almost like Hitler and Goering and Mussolini and those famous tapes in The Office where they're all kind of celebrating and laughing and rubbing their hands together. I mean, it was like a villain out of a cartoon.
The most amazing part is when Scott Fovel, this is a guy who's working for George Soros' organization, he says, quote, we can F-U-C-K, we can F our mother and we would get away with it. And what he meant by that is the Republican governors and the Republican attorney generals in places like Michigan were too weak in the knees to prosecute the fraud. These guys are so arrogant. We caught them on videotape. They were so arrogant that they could get away with anything and wouldn't get prosecuted because the Republicans were too spineless to do anything about it. And it has come to a point in this country where these people can get away with anything.
That's what I'm saying. They're like archetypal criminals bragging on the tape. So now we can show the legislatures and get the voter ID in. I mean, I think this video is going to change the electoral map. I think it's going to turn the tide.
It's changed the public consciousness in this country. I have heard from people. I have heard from left-wingers. I've heard from mainstreamers. I've heard from people saying, James, that is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. These guys are criminal. They're breaking the law.
It's like in a movie. You watch movies when you're a kid where the criminal goes, we're going to screw everyone over. No one can stop us. You don't think people don't act like that. But then in the real world, they really do.
They do. And there's nothing more despicable than inducing violence, than all those protests you saw.
Yeah, let's list what they've been doing and they get this new thing. But I mean, yes, proof. I mean, we knew it then. Sending people to beat folks up and cause riots that could have killed people, as Trump said last night.
Yeah, the cops got bloodied up. They got bloodied up in Chicago. And there's video of that. Well, guess what? That was Scott Fogle and Bob Creamer working with the White House. Hillary Clinton, I'm going to quote the video. Hillary Clinton gives money to the DNC. DNC gives money to Democracy Partners. And Democracy Partners gives money to people like Scott Fogle to, quote, go out and execute the SHIT. This is what they do. And they're on video describing how they did. I'm, quote, so damn proud of the bloody cop. I mean, can you believe this? And then they send women, and then they try to get women to get beat up. This is evil. And Hillary Clinton, Alex Jones, Hillary Clinton was on the airplane with John Podesta being asked by reporters. The White House was asked about it yesterday, and they were stuttering and stumbling over the question. They didn't know what to say. They said, I don't know. They don't know what to do. At the debate last night, Trump brought it up. He said, you induced violence, and Hillary did not deny it.
Since you say that, then we'll hit this final point, your latest investigation. Since you mentioned, here's Trump last night in Vegas.
I was wondering what happened with my rally in Chicago and other rallies where we had such violence. She's the one in Obama that caused the violence. They hired people, they paid them $1,500, and they're on tape saying, be violent, cause fights, do bad things, which is a criminal act, by the way, where they're telling people to go out and start fistfights and start violence. And I'll tell you what, in particular in Chicago, people were hurt and people could have been killed in that riot. And that was now all on tape, started by her.
Started by her. James O'Keefe, amazing.
There was another one, Zulema Rodriguez is the woman in the video as well, who says, we actually got her an FEC expenditure that Hillary Clinton paid her directly. She was paid directly by Hillary Clinton to shut down a highway in Arizona. Bridgegate? What about Highwaygate? I mean, this is I have no words, Alex.
The Democrats have signed on and the media have signed on to a true criminal system, the worst this country's ever seen. They're going down with it. The question is, what will their death throes be like? Only a few minutes left. I want to play a short clip, but set it up. This is your latest investigation that came out. You already mentioned it, trying to get women beat up. I mean, talk about criminal, talk about bullying. Set this up for us.
This is a guy named Aaron Black. He works with the DNC. He says that he's the guy that nobody's supposed to know about. His real name is Aaron Minter. We don't know why he goes by the name Aaron Black. It looks like something out of The Usual Suspects. He's describing how he goes out and he induces what happens at these rallies, specifically when it comes to women. He tries to get women bullied. And we talk about the war against women. I'd love to hear what Hillary Clinton has to say about this one.
Here is the latest Veritas bombshell. During our first video in this investigation, we introduced you to Aaron.
So I'm basically Deputy Rapid Response Director for the DNC for all things Trump on the ground.
He bragged about his involvement in the Chicago Trump protests that turned violent.
So the Chicago protest, when they shut all that, that was us. It was more him than me, but none of this is supposed to come back to us because we want it coming from people. We don't want it to come from the party.
So what did Black have prepared next?
I don't know. I mean, I know things that make big impacts. I think of I think it was a woman, older woman, who was attacked at a Trump rally. Things like that really show what kind of people.
Hey, Lauren.
Yeah.
So we get people behind Trump when he's at a rally, but we make sure it's women and they're positioned next to men. We want images of the men bullying the women who are trying to hold their signs up. That's what I'm going to do. That is what we're going to do. That is the hit.
How do you think you're going to do it?
They're going to have to show up 7 hours ahead of time and wait in line to get there early.
So, pretend to be Trump supporters so they get sat behind them?
Then fold up those signs that we have and put them in their pockets.
That is the hit.
That's the hit. Okay, we're almost out of time. You got to come back, O'Keefe, soon. I know you're a busy man, but you're just a rock star to everybody here. Let's get into bird dogging, because we obviously can't play all the clips because you really don't edit it. There's so much you put out. Bird dogging, getting in somebody's face, pushing them until you get them to fight you.
Yeah, that's how they refer to it as bird dogging. That's the term that they use. That's the term Scott Fogle uses. It's where you induce a reaction, you induce violence. And people have heard of this term before, what makes it so interesting is the relationship with Hillary. Is that Bob Kramer, who goes to the White House 340 times and meets with President Obama, and is in fact on conference calls with the White House. Alex, our undercover reporter, was invited to the White House. I could not go because I'd have to forge a social security number to get in there, and I wouldn't want to do that. That would be illegal. But we were invited to the White House, and this is something that Hillary knows about. Bob Kramer says she was briefed through the chain of command. She's aware of it. We have more video coming out where that gets more into this bird dogging concept and what exactly Hillary knew and when did she know it. Again, this is something the Washington Post and the New York Times should be breaking, something that they're scooped by, something they're embarrassed that they haven't broke. But we're gonna reveal more in the next couple days about exactly what Hillary knew, because we want to catch them in a lie denying it, and then we want to break the news.
Well, you have forced through the electronic Berlin Wall. We've all done it together. It's a huge victory. In closing, obviously they've been trying to shut off Assange's internet. People have been trying to get in. There's been threats. They've said they want him dead. Everybody should pray for you as well, my friend, because let me tell you, you're one of the #1 targets. There's probably 5 people they want to get, and I'm one of them, you're one of them, Drudge is one of them, Assange is one of them. So you are in quite the club now, my friend.
They can't shut us down, Alex. We're too, at this point, we're too high profile. We got too many allies. We got too many good, red-blooded, patriotic, God-loving Americans out. There's 100 million people out there.
That's right, and what you've done, you've taught countless others now, so it's seismic.
Seismic, and they can't shut me down. They can try to look. They can try to kill me. I don't think about it. I don't worry about it. I think they're going to try to use the Justice Department to shut me down.
That's what I've been told. I've been told the Justice Department is looking at us very closely, and you as well. That's exactly what's happening. All right, James O'Keefe, ProjectVeritas.com. Thank you so much. We salute you, my friend.
Thank you.
Wow, that is Paul Revere, 21st Century.